I'm Jeanette.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Ellie, and we watched Babel, which is an 06 drama directed by Alejandro González, Iñárritu, and written by Guillermo Arriaga. It focuses on 3 interrelated sets of situations and characters, and many of the events are revealed out of sequence, but we'll focus on just one story at a time. So the movie begins in the desert of Morocco, where Abdullah, a goat herder, buys a Winchester rifle and ammunition from his neighbor Hassan Ibrahim to shoot the jackals that have been preying on his goats. So he gives the rifle to his 2 young sons, Youssef and Ahmed, and sends them out to tend the herd. They challenge each other to target practice, and Youssef hits a tour bus full of Western tourists and severely wounds Susan Jones, played by Cate Blanchett, who is an American woman from San Diego, on vacation with her husband, Richard, played by Brad Pitt. And the 2 boys realize what's happened and flee the scene.
What happened?
Okay.
Honey, what happened? What happened? Honey, are you bleeding?
So some significant things here are that we learn through TV broadcasts in the other parts of the film that the U.S. government immediately considers this to be a terrorist act. So this kind of highlights the U.S. perception of the area in which this bizarre occurrence of a stray bullet hitting a bus is immediately given such suspicion. And at the same time, though the shooting is in one respect accidental, it also is kind of something of a terrorist act. So we'll leave the fate of Abdullah, Youssef, and Ahmed, as well as Susan and Richard, unsaid and unspoiled.
So a parallel story takes place in Japan, centering around this girl named Chieko Wataya, who is rebellious, deaf Japanese teenage girl, traumatized by the recent suicide of her mother. So she's bitter towards her father and is found to be sexually frustrated. 2 detectives appear who she assumes are investigating her mother's suicide, but are instead investigating the rifle her father gave to Hassan as a token of appreciation for guiding his hunt when he visited Morocco. Turns out this is the same rifle used to shoot Susan on the bus.
Your father is still hunting? There was a case where your father's name was involved in that case of discussion. Understand?
Of interest here is the way we see race relations portrayed between these 2 nations. Her father used Hassan's expertise and befriended him on the hunt to the point of bequeathing him a nice rifle. They were equals and friends, and also in the investigation of the shooting, no blame is placed on the relatively wealthy Japanese man, only inquiry, which is just since he's not culpable. So once again, you'll have to just watch the film to see what happens to Chieko.
The 3rd and final plotline takes place first in San Diego, then in rural Mexico. Amelia is Richard and Susan's Mexican nanny who has practically raised her children, Debbie and Mike, though we learn later that she's been working in the U.S. illegally. She takes the children to her son's wedding near Tijuana when she can't get anyone else to look after them. At the wedding, we see the white children welcomed into the Mexican family with open arms, enjoying themselves heartily once their initial shyness wears off. Amelia and her nephew Santiago try to cross back over the border late at night. They're treated with unjust severity. Although they provide the proper documentation, the picture of 2 Hispanic adults crossing the border in the middle of the night with 2 white children raises a high level of suspicion. The officer asks for the parents' letter of consent, which Amelia does not have, which in addition to Santiago's evident drinking, heightens attention, and in a moment of panic, Santiago trespasses the border. we'll let you find out what befalls them.
Hey there, sweetie. Tell me, is this lady here your auntie?
No, she's not my auntie.
No. She's
Are you
charged.
drunk, sir?
Me?
Are you intoxicated?
No.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to step out the vehicle.
Why?
I need you to step out the vehicle.
Why? Can
I need
explain
you to
from-
step out the vehicle now.
Sir, can I explain?
No, you cannot explain.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
telling
okay,
you that you
okay.
will step
I can
out the
explain.
vehicle.
Can I-
Don't make me ask you again. Sir, get back into the vehicle. What you're going to do now is you're going to follow me to the secondary
Can I
inspection
explain?
area. No, you cannot explain.
Okay,
Sir,
okay,
you will shut your mouth and you will
No me
follow me
grites,
to
no me
the
grites, no me
secondary
grites.
inspection area. You will park your vehicle and you will get out.
So, as far as themes in the movie, we thought a considerable one was that it's sort of like it's a small world type theme. Like, all of these events are interrelated and all of the actions have consequences and things stretch over the entire world and nations and continents all over the place. And so we thought that was just pretty relevant to the whole ethnicities and conflicts theme of the class in general.
Right, and I also think that falls back to like the title of the movie, like Babel, which ties back to communication and issues with communication. As we know, like in most of the story plots, if there would have been proper communication, the issues would have been, they wouldn't even have been issues, you know?
Yeah.
So finding that communication and making it a priority between international relations or even just within your families or even at school is really important.
Yeah, and I think one thing that goes off of that is the ability we have to blow things out of proportion. I mean, it's horrible that this lady got shot and all, but it wasn't initially an act of terrorism. It was two kids that were playing around with a rifle, which they shouldn't have had in the first place. But based off of where it happened and who it happened to, like the governments of different nations were quick to assume it was an act of terrorism.
Yeah.
Which makes you think like how many world conflicts were, you know, simple things like that, which with communication could have been fixed, you know, starting from a small issue which then blew out of proportion, which then killed thousands and thousands of lives.
Yeah, you also see sort of the discrepancy between the way cultures, societies, governments handle conflicts and even just relations. I mean, yeah, there's definitely a disparity.
Yeah, another interesting thing that we noticed was the theme of sterilization and sanitary conditions. We noticed like in the Mexico scenes when they're portraying the Tijuana, we see flies on the meat and we see prostitutes and we see all these images of what could be like unsanitary conditions. And then when we see the scenes in Morocco where they're going to stitch Susan up, we see the needle, which is probably not clean. They use fire to sterilize it. And we kind of see those different aspects of unsanitary things, and we can try to also connect that to how countries preserve their purity or how they see corruption and in what lens we see corruption of other countries as well. So I thought that was really interesting too.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the movie overall handled race relations with accuracy and delicacy for the most part. And the movie got a little bit long for me, but I thought it was good. I mean, it has merit, and I'd recommend it.
Yeah, don't watch it with kids. There is some nudity, but it's
And violence a little bit. He
Yeah.
gets shot
Yeah.
and is bleeding.
yeah, but it's an overall good movie.